Hi, thank you so much for joining me for another online lecture. I'm really looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this paper when we discuss this paper on Moodle and also via BlueJeans on Thursday afternoon. And I want to say how much I appreciate you taking the time to stay engaged with this class and continue to watch these lectures. What we're going to be talking about today is a paper by Caroline Hawksby and Sarah Turner called Expanding College Opportunities for High-Achieving Low-Income Students. And the first thing I want to do in this introductory video is talk a little bit about why I chose this paper, why I'm excited to share this paper with you, and also give a little bit of an outline of what we're going to do with today's lecture. So the reason I think this paper is really interesting, and this avenue of research is really interesting, is twofold. The first thing is that this really comes out of Caroline Hawksby along with co-authors realizing that there's a piece of conventional wisdom among admissions offices and elite universities that she didn't believe was true, finding the data to show that it wasn't true, and then taking the next step of trying to figure out what to do about it, how to use that information to improve the world. And so in many ways, this piece of research is one of the pieces of social science research that I have found deeply inspiring. I learned about this when Professor Hawksby gave a talk when I was in grad school, at a time when I was really starting to get kind of disillusioned with social science research, and this got me so excited and so interested in continuing forward. I think this is a great example of social science done right and the use of high quality data to answer some really interesting and important questions. It's also something I wanted to share with you because while this experiment that we're going to talk about today found these really exciting, startling positive results, follow-up research that tried to build on what Professor Hawksby and Professor Turner did generally tended to find much more disappointing and much more limited results, following along very similar lines to what Hawksby and Turner did. And so this is both kind of this very positive and optimistic story of social science done right, and also a little bit of a cautionary tale about how exciting new interventions can sometimes not lead to the kind of progress that you might hope for. So to give a very, very brief outline of what this paper is about and what this research is about. Professor Hawksby essentially was part of discussions with the Harvard admissions office when Harvard decided to make a promise that any student whose family income was less than $40,000 a year would get tuition free, would not have to pay tuition in order to attend Harvard. And this is something that Harvard did in an effort to encourage applications from low-income students. And it was largely successful, but in her discussion with the admissions office, Professor Hawksby learned that the admissions office at Harvard generally believed that they were recruiting students who would have attended other elite colleges if they hadn't attended Harvard. And the reason was they believed, based on their experience of receiving admissions and trying to recruit students, that there was a fairly limited selection of high-achieving low-income students in the United States, and that virtually all of those students had been heavily recruited by elite universities. So that any such students who wanted to go to elite universities were going to one or the other. So essentially when Harvard was trying to diversify their class, they were doing so at the expense of Princeton or Stanford or Yale or these other places. And she wanted to know if that was true, so she built this enormous database of SAT scores and family incomes from the College Board, and looked to see where high-achieving low-income students were in the country and how they were applying to college, and generally found that this wasn't true at all, that in fact the large majority of high-achieving low-income students do not apply to any selective colleges and have a college application profile that looks much more like other low-income students than like other high-achieving students. And then the second piece of this research, and the paper that I had you guys read, took this insight from the data, right, that there was this disconnect between the achievement levels of many low-income students and their college admissions decisions, and tried to see if she could help low-income students by providing them with detailed information about their likely prospects at elite colleges and the likely costs to them of attending those elite colleges. Okay, so the way that we're going to go forward with today's lecture, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have you watch a TED Talk given by Caroline Hawksby laying out this research. And the reason is essentially there's no way I'm going to explain her work as well as she explains her work. After that, I've made two videos that are going to expand on this. The first is going to look into some of the research that followed this paper. So after this incredibly promising set of results, the College Board and Michael Bloomberg and several other people tried to expand and build on this by providing additional resources to low-income students. generally with pretty disappointing results. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then finally, I'm going to talk about how we might try to embed the results of this paper, and in particular to think about the effects of the college admissions decisions of high-achieving low-income students on the people around them using our identity models and our social distance models. So trying to think about how is it going to affect other students who attend the high schools of high-achieving low-income students when they attend elite colleges, and how is it likely to affect other students at those elite colleges to have a more diverse student body that they're part of. So essentially we're going to take the work that Hauksbee did and build this sort of speculative penumbra around it using the theories that we've learned. Okay, I hope that sounds good, and I look forward to talking to you more about all of this.